What an awesome weekend of trials that was. So much important information that has come out of these trials that we need to build our round one sides. Probably a little bit biased, but I actually think this is probably the most important video so far, even more important than that cash cow video, because we talk about all of them in here and their prospects following these important couple of rounds that a lot of these cash cows have played, but really seeing the majority of these full teams together and how important these combinations are going to be. We saw with a few of the teams that they might not be ready yet to come out and dominate. The Dogs are one of those that I'm a little bit concerned about, with a few of their players that I'm very interested in that might have made their way out of my side. You get a bit of an insight into my team and the types of players I'm looking for in this as well. And yeah, really those value guys, the guns especially. What I'm deciding I'm looking for this year is just as close to a sure thing as possible. There are, guns that are going to score a bit lower in certain weeks, and then they're going to score higher in certain weeks. Matt Burton is a clear example of that, who could, average in the mid-30s to start, then average in the 70s and 80s in the middle. And, a lot of these guys can do that as well. You've seen Carrigan last year have some up and down weeks as well. There's a lot of those types of players. So looking for as much of a sure thing in that first 3 to 4 weeks as possible, so you can rank well, so you can hold the price of some of those guns, and especially those value guys. If you've got a few of these guys there that have that job security and have really nice base, they're not relying on those attacking stats, it's going to be super important to really get you off on the right foot in round one and have such a great season. So we're going to kick it off. They're very much out of order. We're going to start with the Broncos versus the Cowboys. My team, of course, the Cows. We've got to start with that. And really, overall, it was a good game. Both sides, both teams are looking pretty solid and really led up front by Carrigan and Haas. And both of these guys are currently locked into my team, and I'm really excited by both of them. Carrigan looks bigger, better, stronger than most of the players on that field, and had a better motor than most as well. So I'm super excited by his prospects. Anywhere in the 60s in terms of minutes is going to be great, and we've got him priced at around that 50 mark. I can see him, as I said in my analysis of those must-haves, at around that 55, but there's even a chance he gets closer to 60. So any gun that has sort of 5 to 10 points of value that we get all the way through until round 13, I think super important. So currently it's him over Cotter at that price point, which I've got here, and we'll explain now. Cotter, I just have him just slightly below, just because Carrigan has that offload, which he didn't have as much last year. He looked to offload early, and he got a couple in the back end as well. And really probably the minutes advantage as well, and 30k cheaper. So I hope I've probably pushed you away from Cotter. Cotter will still do great. He didn't play big minutes in that, and he looked absolutely gassed when he came off at 25-26, and his scoring wasn't great in this one. Yes, it's important to have a look at trials, and the importance around scores is decent. But remember, if there's guys that got a body of work over years there, or at least a whole season last year, for example, you should be able to gauge a general idea of how they're going to play. That's where you can look at someone like Robson, who really had probably the worst game, one of the worst games of his career in terms of negative stats. So you're looking at 6 missed tackles for him, an error, a penalty. There was just up to 20 points of negatives there, which left him with a super low score. And he would usually add a few more minutes as well. Granville did come on and play 9, so there's a slight worry that he doesn't play 80 minutes, especially at the start of the season if it's super hot, for example. But I still think Robson is going to be a great option, but I just think I'm personally now looking to move away from guys that I don't think are sure hit wonders, especially in this hooking position where last year I went for Reed after he had a great season, and he just butchered me and didn't play very well at all and didn't score great. So I'm very worried about Smith. There's a chance I'm just going to run Brandon Smith and Tanner Boyd and leave Robson out, but I would absolutely love to have Harry Grant in my side heading into round one there. So I just can't see him playing that bad again, but definitely something you need to think about. We had, it was a Payne Haas there. He played the 40 minutes, got the 42 points, had a couple of dissent penalties and stuff. So even those he could probably get out of his game. And obviously the minutes are going to be there as well. So I'm expecting close to a 60 average from him. I just suggest getting him in your side like I will be. We've got Moser in there, who's just an interesting one to look at. He's got the couple of guys in front of him, obviously Pakes and Walters there, but I think Moser has plenty of opportunity to get into the side at some point. He is 18 though, so yeah, probably not a look in at round one, but definitely keep him in the black book. I thought Ezra Mann played a lot better, guys, so really improved. He was a great runner of the footy last year, but even his passing was much better this year. So It's only been one game, but I was really impressed. And he didn't have Reynolds there as the main guy, but still, I think that he's going to be a guy that can average close to 50, similar to like a Dylan Brown type of player, where he's going to tackle well, but has a probably slightly nicer passing game. I'd say Brown has the better running game and is better defensively at this stage. But yeah, obviously a young guy on the rise who's going to be very important. And guys, obviously I understand it's pretty tough to be able to watch the 9 of these games, but if you can watch as much as possible, then that's going to be great for you to actually see how a guy plays. And if he's going to be someone that you find that is going to be okay in your team, to be able to watch him week in, week out, not get annoyed with him, because I said most of this is actually mental rather than just the stats. Can you handle someone coming out and getting 20 and then getting 60 the next week? And it's good to look at someone to the eye. Are they, we've got Calm Pereira, we'll talk about later, awesome finisher, but how's that going to go in some matchups? Is he going to be someone that runs a lot out of trouble? Is he that type of player, or is he just a great finisher? Something to think about and probably look at in a game. And same with all these value guys and mid-rangers. They could come out and get a few lucky tackle breaks, a few lucky offloads and stuff like that. So just be aware, watching these games is going to be a lot easier than just going off these stats that I come up with and the explanation I give you. Obviously, that's going to be really important, and I thank you for watching. Us, TK with the Talking League guys, having all of those guys be able to look at a game each has been good. I had to watch all of these myself, but that is okay. So yeah, a great suggestion is to get on and watch a bunch of those. And I popped all these notes a little bit earlier, as soon as I made them, into the private group, guys. If you want to join that would be awesome. We're getting a bunch more people jump in, and prizes are coming out soon. So very exciting year to come. Cobbo, he's just super special. I just think he's too expensive on the wing. So plenty of talent, and can score amazing tries. He's getting bigger and stronger, it looks like, as well. So he's going to be an option at some point, I'd say, but probably not from round 1, just too expensive. And Val, he's great, but I think I'm just leaving him for now at the price. There's some other real cheapy guys in the centers that I think can, there'll be a game or two there where Val scores a 30 and these cheaper guys can do that as well. You're obviously leaving some points on the table in your center position if you're going light, but I think, as I said, I'm looking for a sure thing, and I don't think Val is going to be that kind of guy. He's going to be a 70, a 30, a 20, a 60, that type of player. So that's that game, guys. Let me know your thoughts around that one, if there's anything different to what I was saying there in terms of players. Roosters v Manly, just short and sharp on this one. We got to see Teddy for the first half. They didn't play very well. So the main worry with the Roosters at this stage, do they come out in round 1 and play like they did last year against the Knights? This trial there, you saw Manly really come out and dominate the Roosters there in that first half. And then they scored a few tries in the second when all the big dogs were off. So Teddy did his thing, looked completely fine. But I'm not going to pick him to start with, to be honest, at that price point. I think we can leave him for a tick. If he was playing all the way through till round 13, didn't have that round 4 bye, I would definitely be considering him. But just having that bye and the price point when I'd like some sure things up top in the mids and hookers, for example, and halves, I'm going to leave him out. Swelly, unfortunately, got a head knock, but he wasn't scoring too well for the start, obviously, with Roosters not scoring well. So I'm just going to look at him at round 5, I think. Sammy Walker, I'm actually interested from the top. As we'll talk about a little bit later on down the track, there's a couple of guys I'm a little bit worried about, one being Burton, and Walker is that bit cheaper. Hastings are a little bit worried about as well, so I'm definitely interested in Sammy, who's the cheapest out of all of those guys. And the Roosters have the Dolphins first up, when we saw the Dolphins didn't play super well against the Titans, so Roosters could come out and dominate. So just be aware of that. The Roosters have 2 really nice games to kick off this season, and Walker could definitely be a beneficiary. He just had to rest this game, carrying some tiny little niggle there, I believe. So Walker will be fine. Smith, just lock and load him. Need to play him. He got good points in this one, even though they didn't play very well, so he'll be fine. 60 minutes, I think, will be sweet for him. Egan Butcher, he's going to do well. Really, the only worry for him is the fact that Angus Crichton could come back at any time. Is Egan ahead of Nat as well? That's the other question there. But either way, I think he, if he does happen to go back to the bench at some point, like if you do pick him up and Angus comes back, then I think Egan off the bench, he's still going to be able to hit sort of, around that average that he got last year, 35 to 40 at worst. So you're not going to lose a heap of money on him if you're able to pick him up from the start. But I think he's going to be a great option, similar to that of Teague Wilton. They both have a bye fairly early in round 4 and 6. So either way, I think you're going to do well. picking one of those guys. Egan defensively makes a lot of tackles, so that's great. And he's obviously going to run a decent line. He scored a bunch of tries last year, just like Nat did. And Nat got another one in this trial game there. So I personally have Egan over him just for the price, because you get him at just under 100k cheaper than Nat. And both have a little bit of a worry in terms of job security long term. So Egan over Nat for me. In terms of the Manly boys, Kohler was incredible. Him and the Kolomatangi and KO Weeks' little combination there on that right side was hectic. He looked faster than normal, which was crazy because he was already super fast, but you can see his growth, which was awesome. That's what we want to look for. For a guy that's priced in the 30s there, he can definitely be a keeper by the end of the season. The buy in round 2 is the big worry. So let's just leave him for the first round or a couple and see what happens when Tommy's back. DCE, even those guys weren't back and they still dominated. Croker wasn't there. Crazy. Kelmar, very similar. He looked great. Was able to be involved in a few of the attacking raids as well. And he looked really fit and firing. So I'd like to see them in round 1, see how they play, if he gets plenty of ball or not. Because he definitely has some tackle breaking, offloading, and some nice slick passing ability. I didn't write Schuster down here. I just don't think he's an option to start off. And, he looked okay, but points-wise wasn't there. But he looked solid enough to contribute. But a lot of time was, he was 2 passes away, like a contribution rather than a direct try assist there. Kum Tong is the young hooker. So I think if Croker goes down, he's a must. He was awesome. He'll be cheap. But really, he's probably fighting for that 14 role. Could get it. I'm not exactly sure if he will. But I still think he's going to be great if he happens to get that opportunity. Weeks was awesome as well. Put him on the watch list, guys. Played fullback there. If there's injuries to Garrick, to Trebojevic, these types of guys, he'll come in. He just looked really silky with ball in hand. As I said, with Olakua too, amazing, but he's just a no for now. Does amazing things out there, obviously, like I said, but meters are always a little bit down, and that's why he can score like a 70 and he can come down and score a 35. So that's that there. But Eagles for big improvement this season. They didn't have any of their guns, and they absolutely dominated that Roosters side, who was pretty well full strength apart from their halves. So yeah, there you go. Nice for the Eels. So this one was concerning, to say the least, for the Knights guys. There's definitely a little bit of a caution I'm having on Knights players. If they play a little better and they do have a soft draw to start, I'm still tempted to start with Hastings, for example. I think a few of these guys are going to be fine because they have that softer draw to start. Obviously, that was their first game together as a spine. Brayley there, Hastings, Ponga, looked okay at the start. Was all at sea, for around halftime, and then obviously the main guys didn't play much of the second half. But really, Miller, I think he was completely solid, and I think he has enough base in terms of meters and tackle breaks, like I said before, to make money with upside if the Knights can improve a little bit. Those first few games, he could come out and score a 50 or 60, and you'd be really wanting him in your side. I can see him having a base of sort of that 25 to 30, which, when he's priced at that 30 mark, I think that's completely fine with the upside to score tries and make line breaks, etc. there. So that's Miller. He's in my side at the moment. Hastings there, I think just with him, the runs, the tackles, the goals, really all of that is super important, that base. And I think at worst, he can get that. He didn't play the full 80 minutes, obviously, so he got it 28. And if he can get, obviously another 15 to 20 minutes of those base stats, you're looking at closer to the mid to high 30s there. And then any sort of attacking stats from there, you're up in the 50s, and that's where we're looking for Hastings to be solid. And up against the Eels, they're not playing that type of caliber team every week. As I said, they've got some lesser teams to kick off this season, and once they build their sort of combinations there, I think that he's going to be a really solid pickup. Not as much of a home run as I was thinking about earlier, but neither is Burton and these types of guys. So yeah, it's really hard to get a gauge sometimes in the trials because it is one game. If we got to see another one, you can see some patterns and stuff like that. But at the moment, Hastings still a solid option, currently in my side. But as we know, that changes day to day this close in the preseason. Ponga, I just think he's probably a no for now. He looked all right, but all right's not good enough for us. Elliott looks like he'll be sweet. He probably could have played if it was round 1, but they're going to give him a good rest until round 1 there. That's the main issue, is that he's recovering from an injury, so I think he's on the watch list for now. I don't think Daniel Saifidi stood up enough, so I couldn't put him in my side. Definitely on the watch list as well, given they have around 10 buys, so you got some time. Marzu, his attack was incredible. He running game's crazy, but I just think he's a bit expensive in a fairly average team, to be honest with you there. So Marzu, as good as he was, could be a keeper, but that's the worry. If it was a slightly better team, if Knights improved, then he definitely could be like a 650k type of guy. But for now, it's a no. Matt Dury. So got injured right at the end, just rolled his ankle. Sounds like he will probably be fine for round 1. And the fact that Sean Lane is out, he has broken his jaw, so out for that sort of probably 3 to 4 weeks of the season, given that we're 2 weeks out from the season now, if it's not as bad as they've kind of said there, which is pretty much normal, that 4 to 6 weeks with the jaw. Looks like him and probably Murchie will get the back row spots, and him at 250k, you just got to slot him in. If he's starting in round 1, most likely that ankle roll is going to be fine, but if you roll your ankle in a trial game, of course you're going to go off. But he's someone, his base stats aren't incredible. He did score a try and get a 30, so not ideal really, but at 250k, if he can get somewhere in the 30s, look, you're starting that every day of the week, and safety, high 20s to mid 30s at worst. I think you can do, you could definitely do way worse selecting other guys for sure. So I think Dury's a solid one. You just put him in your side. And if he's picked in round 1, there's not a lot of great options at that price, to be honest with you, that are safer. And I think you get 3 or 4 weeks at a minimum with him until Matto comes back, and you can make decisions from there. 250k, you can make some cash. Russell, so him being over 300k, a lot of people asked me about him. I didn't speak about him in the cash cow videos just because that price was a bit awkward. He's come out and done really well. He's on that right side as well, which usually isn't as strong, but he was able to get 2 nice tries. He's obviously a great finisher. Plenty of tries in the games that he does play for the Eels. So him in a good team, I really wouldn't push you away from him, to be honest, but I just think you can pick guys like Warbrick and these types of guys at a cheaper price point rather than going for Russell, who has other guys fighting for that position as well, and guys coming back from injury also. So with Russell, I think you can just hold off on him. But if you pick him, go for it. I think you're going to be fine. You got Zach Sini, these types of guys as well, who will do okay. But again, we've seen what happened to him last year, so not great to go off anyway, those types of scores that he was picking up. Hopgood, I think he's almost a captaincy option. Lock him into your side. But could be close to a vice captain if you're going real spread out. Hopgood should score 50 plus in that first game. Penasini, big improvement on him. He looked great. That right side did get a lot more ball, which is interesting. So might that change next week? It looks like they found a bit of a hole on that right side or left side defensively for the Knights. So just on the watch list for sure. I think Penasini will be a keeper end of season at that 40, just over 40 type of range. So keep him in your black book as well, but I won't be starting with him personally. They do have no buys all the way up to round 14, which is obviously great, and will come into your calculations at some point in the year. Tigers v Raiders. This was interesting, wasn't it? The Tigers actually look great. Very exciting without Joe O, who's going to be back round 1. He could have played today in that 13 role, just carrying a small injury there, so he'll be fine, and he will command obviously some big minutes. You'd imagine the 13 role, because they were talking about Stefano and Clemmer in that sort of 8 and 10 role there. Joe O can be that guy, can be a little bit of a ball player, but he obviously did really well in either 8, 10 or 13. Didn't really matter for him. His role didn't change a lot. But no Bateman, no Appy, no Brooks. They had really good defense and great attack as well. So exciting times for Tigers. Very disappointing for the Raiders, who should be close to that top 8. I have them sitting around that 8th, 9th position. So very interesting there. Tigers, obviously from that point of view, then you've got Adam Dewey, who was obviously awesome, but you're missing a bunch of those guys, and which means naturally he's going to get his hands on the ball a lot more than normal. But he is someone that does do that in general. So does it change much when Brooks is back? Probably not. Probably just gets a little bit more direction with guys like Appy. Simpkin did a great job, but Appy's Appy, right? You got Bateman there, who's going to be on his right edge as well, which is going to be exciting for Dewey. So I can see him as a great option there. He's a focus point, smart player, runs a lot, kicks well, goal kicks. Great option. He played the 64 minutes there and scored around that 50 mark. So could be a great option. I'm definitely tempted to go like Hines and him, for example, Cleary and him, one of those type of options. Hastings is there, Burton's there, who I've had both of them in my side. I haven't had Dewey sitting in there much, but he could definitely sneak in there for sure. Tommy Talau, he had a really good few strong runs and a good line run for the try there off Dewey. So I think if the Tigers are going to be good, he's going to benefit. He has a dual position and he's cheap. So he played so much better this game, than he did that previous trial. Obviously around some better players, no offense to the younger guys there, but having Dewey there to run off, and he's nice and strong. His defensively wasn't too bad, so I think he's back into calculations. He's sneaking into my side at the moment just because he can cover both those positions as well. Definitely he's going to have the odd low game in him, but I think that, if Tigers play well, he's going to have more good games than bad. I really just don't think we can pick Blore. Like, he has to start for me. So really, they mentioned that Bateman's probably not, they don't even know when he's coming back, to be honest with you. They're hoping he gets in soon, Dewey was saying, but there's no real clear knowledge as to when he's playing. But you doubt it's going to be any more than a few weeks. So if Blore's starting in round 1, you probably pick him, but really, he looked okay at best. So, yeah. Stefano, I'm just still not interested. I just don't see the big minutes there for him. Like, he needs 50. I can see him getting 40 at best. 35 is likely as well with Joe coming back. Yeah, just don't see it for him at an awkward price. Raiders, they just weren't good, really, at all. Smith-Shields had solid in the first half. He had to move to centre. We probably like him on the wing a little bit better, to be honest with you there. But really, I'm probably going Talau over him at this stage. He's still a solid option for sure. Not as excited as we were, but you do need to look at his scores in the actual NRL, because he actually did a great job. He scored, averaged over 30 in the games that he played. And really that's all you need for someone like him. And if he does get named on the wing, he will get dual position because he's a centre at this point, which is going to be valuable there for sure. But Talau, probably slightly over Smith-Shields at the moment, unless the Raiders can kick into gear, because that was really weird. What the other thing was weird is just Ricky Stewart in general. He's done it again. He's got Sebastian Chris playing at fullback when we thought Rapana was going to play fullback. This has happened a bit where Raps has come into fullback sometimes, and then other times like, nah, we'll just leave him on the wing. But it was very strange, to be honest with you, how that worked. He went to left wing, and Smith-Shields went to centre. It's just weird, because Sebastian Chris is a great centre. They should have left him there. Tarpany, his short stint, he looks like the only dangerous guy. So he was great, as always. I wouldn't be stressing about Tarpany. If you're looking to pick him up, he only played the 25 minutes for the 21 points. So he was great. Okay, the Storm vs Warriors. This is a very, very fantasy relevant game here for sure. We had, the Storm really just got into their work in the second half. They didn't really play great in the first, and Warriors did an awesome job in the first. They held them off great, and then the class of the Storm guys just really came into effect. And, that second half really mitigated all the Warriors, back seven, who scored okay in the first half, not so great in the second. You look at SJ, you look at CNK, these types of guys just didn't play. They actually played solidly, but that second half was really negative. That first half, they were sitting on 19, CNK. He looked great, kick defusals, getting up well, covering defense. He's always been a great player, right? It's just that fantasy output that we like to see a little bit more from him. He's always been that solid sort of 40-point scorer, but now moves to a slightly lesser team. And you saw here that they actually hold their own, which is good. They are not going to play the Storm every week, so definitely some opportunity for him to do well. He ended up on 15, to be, which is not great. Nothing in the second half. That the odd missed tackle came in, but the first half he was 5 tackles for no misses, which is what we expect from him. So got the missed tackle, had an error in there, a few bits and pieces that weren't great. The worry here is that he's priced at $370. Can you pick some other cheaper guys that are going to do a job and slightly less chance of having some low games? That's the big question mark you really need to have with here. So they do have, the first 3 rounds of the year are actually not too crazy in terms of teams. So that's the big tick, I suppose, with these Warriors guys. Let's move to Tamari Martin. So he comes into calculations a little bit with some of the cheapies not looking safe to me. He is that little bit more expensive, 60 to 70k more than the cheap guys, but his base is going to be solid enough, I would say, in terms of tackles, the odd kick and some run meters there, for him to hit sort of somewhere in the 20s, and then if he can get a try assist or something like that, be okay. Congrats to him. He had a child, so that's why he didn't play. Well, his wife had a child. That's why he didn't play that trial game there. But he definitely comes into calculations, guys, as a dual position half and the wing fullback. You'd slot him in the wing fullbacks for sure. Tohu Harris, the mins is probably the main worry for him. If he had the extra 10 minutes, he gets 50-ish in points for a game where they were very well beat in that second half. But, first half back and forth is what we kind of want from him. But with him there, he's a solid option, but there's probably a bit better, right? So, yeah, that's Harris at the moment. I just think, you can go cheaper, 450, 500k guys, and get guys scoring somewhere in the 40s, hopefully, whereas Harris, you're probably in that 50 range, so a little bit better, but 680k, Nick Corey, so he's going to mix between edge and middle. So Curran came on for Nick Corey, and he just shifted to the middle a bit. He didn't play the full 80 than Nick Corey, but He's going to be solid. I just think he's more of a watch rather than a buy at this price currently. You got Jackson Ford there, so he was very interesting. If he's looking to get plus 50 minutes, I think you have to get him at the price at 340. He looks really busy in defense, which is what we want, and then the odd tackle break and the odd try, which is going to be solid. But it looks like he's starting in these trials, both of them now. Potentially has earned his spot. If you're current off the bench, unless they're really just trialing, like it's meant to be a trial, to see how he plays in that position, I just think that you probably have to get him in and take that risk, because we look at him as someone that has actually scored pretty well in bigger minutes in the past, mainly through the middle. But what you saw in that when he was playing through the middle, his tackles were up, and we saw that on the edge as well. So I can see that transferring a little bit. His PPM won't be as great as it will be in the middle, but if he's earned his spot, I think he's going to be great for our size, just to shore up that spot. We look at guys like Bullymore last year, and just he wasn't suited to that edge. If you're looking at forward play, you're like, he's actually looks fairly solid on that edge compared to what we looked at with Bullymore. He had a bit more vigor has a bit more vigor with his running, for example. So Ford comes into calculations for sure. Wade Egan, I think he looked great, but he's always pretty up and down, to be honest with you. And he's going to be one of those guys that gets you a 65. And it's like, why don't we even think about this guy? He's fairly cheap. But there's a reason he is down that bit and not a keeper, is because he does have a game where he gets 30 odd and plays less minutes, for example. So keep that in mind. SJ, solid, but I still stand by the 43 average, and just not being enough for you to pick him up. He started really well. He was in the late 20s in that first half, and then just ended around the same mark. So not ideal there for sure for him, but I'm not going to push you away. I just don't think he will come into my calculations. Will Warbrick, get in my team, big boy. Tall, strong, right winger for the Storm, who are a good team with guys like Hughes and Remus Smith on his side. I just think you have to get him in, and you probably have to play him. I think I will be. He's got a minimum of 3 weeks. Looks like Georgie Jennings probably back around 4-ish. So can he keep in that side? Will there be another injury somewhere else? These are all the questions you have to answer there. If Xavier Coates goes down at some point in the year, does Warbrick just play on that side? Does George Jennings go over there? There's a few question marks there, but minimum 3 weeks. You could play him. He'll make some cash. He'll at least have 1 or 2 of those games where he runs for big meters and scores a try, which should get him around that 40 plus mark. And if he does that, he's going to make some cash. So you need to get him in, I think, personally. Smith, just not for me at that price. Too expensive. He'll warm into the season coming off some injuries. Cammy Munster, he looked good as per normal. If you're not going the top 2 in Hines and Cleary, I think Munster's going to be obviously the next best that you can have there. His osseous pubis there didn't look or seem to be hampering him too much. He still looked great. So that's that. Hughesy looked good as well. Looked better than at times he did last year. Hope he's fit in terms of his calves and stuff like that. So just keep a watch on him. Big Nelson, just wow. Is he going to be that big minute guy? That's the question now. They lose some forwards. They obviously get Welch back. I'm just seeing some value with some consistent minutes. If he can get around that 50 mark minutes-wise, then I think he could definitely score at 50 and make some cash. But are you going to take that risk and pick him up? I'm not exactly sure. Harry Grant, real slow start there, but just showed his class. He had a nice run down the left-hand side. He gets busts, he gets offloads, he takes kicks, base, tick, tick, tick. All great for Harry there. If you're looking to start with him, no qualms in this trial. I think he's going to do great. Welchie, he was good. He was really good, but I think you just avoid him at the price. He's never been a keeper. That's that. Leoro there, we've got, for him, it was interesting there. He had 127 meters and then 26 tackles with 1 tackle break. So 40 there in that total, but just way too many negatives. I wouldn't expect a neg 14 every game, which ended him on that 26 there. So not ideal, to be honest with you, but he's cheap enough, I think, that you can just plug him in anyway at the 389. Not a big worry. You still need him to hit that mid-30s 40, which I think he can. 120 meters is nice, really. He ran well, just had a bunch of missed tackles, the odd error in his game. So I doubt that he's going to get that every time. Solid. My preference is Katoa at that little, that 50 to 60k more expensive. He just runs a good line. He looks super fit. I'm really, really happy with how Katoa's looking in a Storm system. We've all been excited with that all season. He ran that good line. To go through and score, which was awesome, and his tackles have been great. So has low missed tackles in both of those games, which is a big tick. So Katoa in my side at the moment. Leoro, waiting and see how it all pans out with a few of these other games, and some of the guys we'll speak about later on. So we got the Dolphins and the Titans. This was a very Tough game if you're a new Dolphins fan, or if you're from Redcliffe and or around the area and are looking to go for them this year. It will be a longer year. Look, they have some talent up there, but the Titans are a solid team, and you can understand why they would come out and put a lot of points on. They're a team that has high scoring games, and it was again 40-16 there. So what we're looking at with the Titans there is I think foreign's going to be super important for the Tits in this one. So we've got Cam Pereira. Let's talk about him now. So really a great finisher there. We got round 1 and 3. You shouldn't be going nuts. They've got teams like the Storm in round 3, which is going to make it a little bit tougher for him to come out and dominate. But shows there that he could finish anything. Round 2 is up against the Dragons, which would be good. But just be aware that he's obviously not going to score a quad all the time. Won't score a try, even just one every game. And his base stats aren't great. So we've said that before, but it's great to see him come out and do well. If you pick him up in round 1, I'm not going to push you away from it for sure. Personally, not exactly sure if I'm going to pick him, but he's definitely on the radar of everyone there. So did a great job. Aaron Shop, we know the talent, but the price is a bit awkward, and see above with Cam Pereira, what we just said. So Shop there, 13 tackle breaks. Wow, just tore them apart down the left-hand side. So down the right-hand side. Sorry, is that right? Yeah. Tanner Boyd. So he did his job. Surprisingly, he goal kicked really poorly. He was kicking them like sideways off the boot for someone that has such a high percentage. So I really liked him running the ball. 80 plus meters was great. 6 kicks to 4 and 1. All the things we're looking at there. If they can score some points, he will be involved in some try assists and tries himself at some point. It obviously didn't happen in this game, but it definitely will at some point. Dave Fafita there. His 11 runs was much, much better. Great to see that. He's a good option for sure, but so much value in the position. He got 2 nice try assists with silky hands. He's great. Great option, but I think an avoid with so much value. Sam Verrills, spoke about him in the hooker video. He's a solid option, impressive work rate, few good runs. Got the few tackle breaks there and a bit of a weird run it was. So these are the ones that you look at, guys, and go, oh wow, Verrills came out, he didn't even play the full 80 minutes and he got close to a 50. The run he got 2 tackle breaks, and it was just like a bit of an open, weird play thing, and they just fell off him. So they're the types of ones where you want to actually check out, see how they got their tackle breaks. Was it from great runs? Was it just from guys being lazy? There's a few different things there. Even Teague Wilton, we saw him come out and just run out of the line and try and bump blokes, and obviously is pretty nice footy-wise, but not good for fantasy and getting that -2. And sometimes the tackle breaks from the other person, you get that, which is helpful sometimes. Tino, as expected for me with him, good work rate, hard to stop. You could lock him in if you had him in sights. Keep him in there. Aaron Clark, as expected, no negatives, which was great. Need to see him starting at 13 for Teamless Tuesday, and he'll have that duel and everything, which would be great. Gleesy Haas looked to be lower in the food chain, got limited minutes. Obviously, was named lower in their 30 or whatever they name in these trials, but that was that. Hammer, just a no from me, as I've been saying all preseason. Just don't like the work rate, the effort, the missed tackles. Like you saw that one day, Fafita, when they stuffed up there, Fafita grabbed the ball, tried to run the length, and the Hammer is kind of just, he does look like he's chilling, and a lot of time he kind of is, and he goes, oh crap, like I've got to actually try and chase this guy, and then he couldn't even chase Jojo Fafita. So a little bit annoying with that kind of stuff, and just his work rate isn't enough, I don't think. So he's a no for me at the price for sure. Isaiah Katoa, he's so good. He's going to be a must-have when he gets a spot through form or injury. Milford obviously wasn't great, so Katoa could come into calculations there. But for now, he's obviously a young star coming through. You can see the vision he put one of the boys through there. Who was it? Connolly Lemilu, who he popped through there on the left-hand side. Was really nice. So he's going to be solid at some point. Nichols and him or Wallace were the best on ground for forwards in terms of their base stats, their offloads. Did a great job. So a solid option. I don't think he's going to be an amazing option, but someone at an awkward price that you could throw in. Stone, it's hard to tell what mins he's going to get. A solid work rate, but a bunch of negatives in there, which is pretty normal for his game there. So that's Stone and the Dolphins there. Just not really many great options. I didn't even talk about Gilbert, so forgot to pop him in there. I just think you just can't pick him up at this point, unfortunately. Just the minutes are a worry. I actually like him fairly well on the edge in a team where there's going to be a lot of points put against them. Really not someone that I want to be touching. You want the ball in play as much as possible for these middles. And just for Gilbert, he's a no for me at this stage at that awkward price. There's too many other guys that are much better value, I think. Okay, Bulldogs versus Sharks. So this is a very, very interesting game here in terms of fantasy. You can see I've got a lot of players to speak about. And we're going to start with the Dogs. I just don't think the Dogs are ready to go in terms of their combinations. So, Burton's been carrying a minor injury as to why he hadn't played, a few of these games. But he got out there. And a few things that scare me for Perham, Burton, and just a slight scare for Alamotti, but I'm not too stressed about him. So I just feel like they need time to build their combinations. And really, with Burton, the worry is that if they aren't dominating, is his run meters, goal kicking, general just want for the ball like other halves have? I just don't think he has. And if I'm needing him to average a 55 plus, Dogs need to be doing well, which they did at a certain period last year. I expected them to come out and look really good, but it makes sense as to why they haven't as well. So I was hoping that they would, but they haven't. And that puts some pressure on him, Perham, and a few of these other outside backs for sure. Avrilo, I said, hasn't really been an option, but Perham's the big worry there. So Burton for now is out of my side, but if you're looking to keep him in, I think that's completely fine. Just be aware that he's probably going to be that 30-odd type of guy, then an 80, probably similar to last year at the start. I think we can watch him for the first couple of rounds personally, and then look to pick him up because they have a bye in round 13. Last year was a great pick up in about round 6. So, round 4, 5, 6, somewhere there, you could look to pick him up. But obviously not going to play an amazing Sharks team every week, so something to think about as well. Perham, man, he has an error in him. Unfortunately, similar to Sloan, has a bunch of sort of errors, issues at the moment in terms of, where he is in general play and defense, where he is in attack, the ball playing that he has, just a bunch at the moment. And he's not basement price, so that's a slight worry. I'm just not sure if you can play him, especially against the better team. So that 6 that he got is just really alarming. So the Dogs need to be good, I think, for him to score well. And unfortunately, right now, he's not in my starting team. May not be in my team at all at the moment. We'll just have to see what happens with the options. If you compare him to guys like Tamati Martin, Tamari's base is going to be a lot better. So I thought Perham would come out and play a lot better across these 2 games that we've seen him. He did look okay in the All-Stars game, but it was okay, not great. And then in this game, you would have hoped that he could come out and do well, and he just did not. So that's that. Alamotti, I just think he's safe. It's safe that he does pretty well, to be honest with you. He was solid in defense and ran well on that left side. I think you just got to lock him in. You're probably looking to play him as well. Personally, that's what I'm looking to do at the moment. So, as I say, guys, learning a fair bit about my team if you're keeping up here at the moment. Alamotti, lock him in. I think you're fine. If you're not starting him in the team, at least have him in your 21. Sutton there, I just think he's a no from now. Minutes probably aren't there exactly. There's a little bit of news. I'm not exactly sure if it's 100% as of this morning that TPJ might be out for a few weeks. Sounded like he could have played yesterday, but they left him out. But who knows how bad the injury is. It sounds like it's calf related. So yeah, we'll find out a little bit more over the next few days. But that is that. We know what he can do, but I think he's a little bit of a risk, to be honest with you. TPJ anyway, that is. So Sutton and TPJ, TPJ was out and Sutton still didn't go great, to be honest with you. So I think you'd leave him out. Too risky. RFM, I think he's going to have the same 45 average as what I was thinking about. He did look great. I'm happy with him. Pele, in contention. I think you're going to wait for TLT. He's obviously really cheap. And probably good news if TPJ's out for Pele to get sort of that 25, 30 minutes, which you can make some money off. Marnie did his job. Lots of really silly error, just like dropping the ball when he's like just running, changing arms or something like that. There's ones, kind of floats over the top and he goes to catch and drops it. Just all the stresses of last year. I just think I personally can't pick him up, but I know a few people are interested for sure. And in terms of the Sharks side, a few guys to talk about. Obviously the back guys, the back 5 there, all okay options. They're going to score tries this year. There's plenty going on. You see Ronaldo, he's going to go over for plenty again this year. Hines, he's Captain Hines for me. Sharks going to be awesome. He just does everything. Same as Cleary. They're both great options. So that's that. We'll speak about Cleary a bit later. Wilton can score tries, really. One game, and then the next game he can defend really well. Like you saw last game, the first trial, he made a lot of tackles there. This week he decided to come out of line and stuff like that. I don't know if Fitzgibbon's going to like that or not. So hopefully he takes that out of his game because it's not too nice for us fantasy-wise if he bounces off and gets a neg 2. He scored 37 with 2 tries. So 60-odd minutes. Didn't like that. But as I said, the game before he had in the mid-40s and lots of tackles. So really, if you can do it all, it's going to be great. But he runs a great line. I think he's a solid option. Him and Egan in that price point, both good. But yeah,
McInnes, I think he's an option at some point. Okay, let's go to Bunnies, Dragons. We've got a few to go, guys. Not too many. Lomax on the left here. What have we got? 2 to go, yeah. Lomax on the left. What are they doing? Seriously, that looks so awkward. There was one there, he's used to sort of catching and running at that angle to the right. And he was turned a little bit, caught it, and then went to turn. And by the time he even turned to start running in that, so sort of that angle towards the left, because he's on that left side, to be able to draw and pass, for example, he was just hit by the defense. It just seemed weird. I don't know why they changed that. Lomax's right-hand flick pass is incredible. Yes, he sometimes gets it wrong, but that's his spot. It just seems silly. I'm really worried for Dragons, to be honest with you. Bunnies Res, I thought. In terms of their players, you got Bud Sullivan. He was on the bench there and scored an awesome try. He's talented. He should start at 6. I think he really has a crack, which is what these Dragons need, to be honest with you. He's on the watch list for me. With them having a bye in round 1, I think you could just leave him out of your side and make a decision on him, given he's a little bit over 300k. Just a wait and see. My main worry now is for Sloan. So with him just continuing to make a lot of errors, he's really upset at the end of the game, and you can understand why. His career is on the line. He's just got so much talent. You see, he makes tackle breaks, he has line breaks there, but the errors just keep him down at a low score, and he's just pretty average, to be honest with you. His chance he could be dropped. Mbai could go to 1. They've got a few other options. Obviously, Jack Bird to come back as well, which we'll speak about in a sec with Ben Murdoch-Masila and his prospects. But Mbai could go to 1, as I said, and really change things up in this team. So all these guys are a big worry. You might want Ben Murdoch-Masila because he's looked great, but then Bird could come back. Sloan, we don't even know if he's going to start in round 2. So there's so many question marks on a bunch of these players. So yeah, definitely worrying. Ben Murdoch-Masila, as I said, looked great. But what happens when Birds returns? Does he go to the bench? Does he get 20 minutes and ruin us? So again, a worry to even start with either of them. Might be worth not, to be honest with you, and then just waiting and seeing if they can start to go well. But the Dragons look really bad. Little, same as I thought, to be honest with you. Cam Murray, amazing as always. I'm trying to fit him in my side, to be honest with you. Very expensive, but just in everything. When they score points, he can do get line breaks from the middle, score himself. And when it's an arm wrestle like the first bunch of games might be, he's going to be in that arm wrestle and get the base stats. So either way, I think he's fine. Mitchell, same as normal. Walker looked great, better than last year, to be honest with you. Just footwork was really what I was looking at there, and vision's always there. But yeah, the footwork looked great. Tass was really solid, but I think he's on the watch list for now. A bit of an awkward price. On the left, which is what we want, Cam Graham's on the right. What we saw there is Cam Graham and Isaac Thompson weren't involved as much. All of the energy and effort was through the middle and on that left-hand side. So Thompson, in this type of game where they're absolutely dominating, he's not going to be able to need to do as many runs out of his own end because they aren't in their own end very much. And a lot of they were getting their ball off a kickoff, for example, after they scored. So Isaac Thompson got 4 runs, 41 metres. He was solid. He didn't need to be involved in too much. So I think you just still pick him. He'll be fine. Base him off the games he saw last year. Graham as well, on the right side. Not too much happening. He's a keeper. Probably wait. David Wale really did his chances no harm, to be honest with you. He's very much a TLT watch for me. If he's in this side with no Havili and no Hamesele in round 1, I think he can do a job and get some minutes, hopefully. He's obviously not going to take many from guys like Cam Murray, but you've got Burgess and these types of guys who can give him up a few minutes, and he is that guy. He's that guy they've been talking about for a while, and hopefully, he did his chance. He did a great job on the weekend that he can get his chance there. Ilias there, he did a great job. I think he did his job, I should say. He's an okay option. When they're going nuts, he doesn't have to be involved as much. He's obviously not going to kick as much in general play, so don't look into his score too much. But the Bunnies are going to be a team that will pile on points at some point during this year. Obviously, the start here is what we're looking at. So he could be more tackles, more kick meters type of guy in these first bunch of weeks. So yeah, definitely a solid one, but probably a no at the moment, an okay option. Cook was awesome. Kolamatangi, great as always. Totola, he should be great for the closer games, the first bunch of rounds. Don't look at this one too much. Murray's going to be more involved in the attack in terms of their middle forwards. Burgess loves to try as well. Totola likes a random try as well, but it wasn't his type of game. So don't look into his score too much. He will be great when he's playing big minutes and it's a contest back and forth. So that's that for the Bunnies. And lastly, guys, the Panthers versus St Helens there. And we had, obviously only the Panthers to talk about here. You got Cleary, great captain option as well, same as Hines. He didn't have an incredible game and still picked up 63 in a wet one. So, it just does everything. Kick meters were big, run meters still there, a little bit of everything there. Tunga, I think he's a great keeper in the centres, to be honest with you. Look, I'm not going to start with him in just with his buy in round 3, and how are the Panthers going to start? They obviously weren't amazing against St Helens when a lot of people tipped them to come out and absolutely dominate, but I think he's going to be a great option at some point of the year. Keep him in your mind for sure as a good upgrade option. I think he was solid. Obviously, the wet one isn't a great one for him either, but around 4 or 5 is probably the maybe thought for me. But we'll check him out for sure. Yo was in tip-top shape. He's big minutes. He's big base stats there. He's awesome. Top of his powers for sure. Kenny, big minutes. He played, obviously scored pretty well, but in terms of hooking, as a hooking option, he's not amazing NRL wise. He's okay, he does the job, but him through the middle and stuff, doing his work is where he's making his money for sure. I think Sonny Luke will get back and should be able to play close to that 50 minutes. So if he does that, he's probably going to be in my team, to be honest with you. Sounds like he was just carrying a very, very minor niggle. It's very similar to Dylan Edwards. So both those guys will be back round 1, and they would have played if it was a real season game. So Luke, I'm pretty interested in, to be honest with you. He's going to be ready for round 1. Lanu had a great game, big peak PM, and this is the type of games and the type of scoring he can do, but the minutes is always the worry. So we're looking at guys like Eisenhuth and those guys on the bench. If there's some injuries, we've said this in the past that he should be able to come in and take that role, but they usually have someone that can play that bigger minute role, and he's still going to have that punch. But hopefully this year that you can get that 30 or 40. So just watch for minutes in the first couple of rounds. You don't need to pick him up round 1 because he's not basement, but round 4 or 5, if something happens there, he could be a solid one for your side. And then we've got the Garner and Hosking battle to finish this off, guys. Garner was very underwhelming. It's going to be a TLT watch for him and Hosking, but really the spot isn't safe. It was talk that Garner should be in favour for that left edge role. We've got Liam Martin, who is currently out but should be back for round 1. It was great that we could see Garner and Hosking. Obviously, Garner's been played on that left first choice, but Hosking is fighting for that. Sounds like they're talking to a couple of the players there, and it sounds like they're both fighting for that role, which is great for us because if we do get Hosking, I absolutely love him. We know what he could do. We know what he could do last year. I really hope he gets the spots. We don't have to make the Garner decision because Garner could be one to get a 55 one week and then a 26, and you're like, oh, that's frustrating. So at that mid 400s price, there's so many other guys around the 400, 500 that there's actually a chance that you don't start with Garner, but also doubt that he's going to play that bad. His run meters were so far down. Is he going to be a guy that scores really well in the dry weather? All of these questions will be answered in team list, guys, but this is super important. We should find out. We know the majority of what the team lists are going to be, so use this as the big part of your study heading into that team list. You should be able to get your team pretty well in order now, and then just make a few changes there. There should be a guy. How you should set this up, guys, is you have some must-haves, and then you have some guys you're looking for, and you might be changing a few of those guns and a few of the value guys, along with a few of those cash cows. So don't pick 7 or 8 cash cows, guys, and then they don't all get a spot, and then you're stuck, or you're picking really poor cash cows that don't have much job security or much upside. Just have a little bit in the tank right now, and then you can make just a few of those changes come team list, and then you're not stressing come round 1. So keep doing all the study, guys. I appreciate you guys for watching these videos, and we'll catch you in the next one.